Hey, today I wanted to talk to you about your rough patch and let you know your rough patch is completely elective. And this is coming from a former rough patch expert. I'm a rough patch expert, my friend. I'm a rough patch expert. My teenage years were all a rough patch. My 20s, one big long rough patch, one thing after the other. Cliff Notes version, clinical depression, abusive boyfriends, chaotic relationships, car trouble, never-ending tickets, like you name it. You name it. It was just constant rough patch stuff, constant rough patch stuff. But I learned during my spiritual awakening that rough patches are elective, and I no longer have rough patches now because I know what I'm going to share with you in this video. We can get into rough patches where they become a kind of lifestyle. It becomes a way of living. And I don't know about you, but when I was in my rough patch phase in my whole entire life, basically, I was just in a rough patch lifestyle and it just was normal. So it would be one rough patch after the other and there'd be some good times, but there were lots of stretches of rough patches. And that's an addiction. It's a lifestyle that we kind of normalize, and I want to help you get out of it. So what happens? Why do these rough patches happen? First thing is we have some faulty ways of thinking. It's a faulty thought pattern. We have a mismanaged mind, and our mismanaged mind tends to focus on negative things. So we're focused on the negative, and then we draw more of that negativity to us. That's called the law of attraction, but that's just basically good old common sense. The more that you train your mind to focus on the negative, the more of it you draw to you. So this becomes kind of a way of being. I was reading self-development books for my entire adult life, and I was filling my mind with all this information, and I was learning it, and then I was practicing it a little bit, a tiny bit, but I wasn't really living it. If we took a pie chart and we examined, okay, how much is Brenda actually living what she's learning? Really, truly. I wasn't really living it. So we have to go from knowing, because everybody knows for the most part what I'm saying. We have to go from knowing it up here to practicing it. And it feels uncomfortable. It feels like putting on two left shoes when you first start doing it. When you first start doing this stuff, it feels very uncomfortable, especially if you're prone to being miserable like I was. I was generally miserable and a rough patch addict until I started practicing that, looking to the positive. Number two reason that rough patches are happening is because you're not training your mind. Your mind is not trained. What I mean by that is you're not meditating. And what I mean by that is you're fused with your thoughts. So your thoughts and you are like this. And you are forgetting that you're not your thoughts. You're getting a sea of thoughts coming in from your environment, from the cosmos. It's just all coming in. You're just having lots of thoughts. It's a conveyor belt of thoughts. And you're living from your thoughts. But when you meditate, you get free from your thoughts because you're noticing them. So then you can see, that's a messed up thought. I don't want to have anything to do with that. But before you do this, if you're not doing this, if you're not meditating and you're not watching your thoughts and you're not paying attention throughout the day of what you're thinking, man, oh man, there's lots of junk in here. Even in the most well-trained mind, there's going to be junk. And if you don't catch it, that junk thought gets in your subconscious and then it bears fruit. And the fruit that you get is the rough patch. Not fun, not great. The next thing I wanted to share is this becomes like a way of being. There's a scene in Dorothy where the witch sets up a poppy field. And she says, this will get her to not make it to Oz.
Poppy.
Ha ha ha. And Dorothy's walking through the poppy fields, and the poppy fields put her to sleep.
I'm so sleepy.
Here, give us your hands and we'll pull you along.
Oh, no, please. I have to rest for just a minute.
That scene is a big metaphor for the rough patch, that a lot of people, we hit challenges, and then the challenges come and then we read it as, oh man, this is a bad thing that happened to me. This is terrible. And then more bad things happen. And then you get in a rough patch, and then you give up, and then rough patch becomes your default way of living. And you become like Dorothy, where she's fallen asleep in the poppy field. So don't be like Dorothy. Don't be falling asleep in your rough patch. Don't be getting comfortable in there. Challenges happen, situations happen, get up, rise up. If you're in a rough patch, don't get comfortable with that way of living. Don't expect it. This was a huge problem for me. I was expecting it wasn't like a thought I was having. It was just my way of living. So I was just expecting all this rough patch stuff would happen. And I was just like, yeah. Another way to put this is the floor that I was setting for my life, my emotional and my relationship and just my standards for my life. The floor of my life was low. I was putting the floor too low. Too low. I deserve to have the floor way higher. And if I could go back and talk to my 24-year-old self, I'd look at her in the mirror and I'd say, hey, you don't have to live like this. There's lots of stuff in your life that is not up to par. That relationship, your mindset, your emotional state, so much. Let's raise the floor up. Let's get it up there, sister. I wouldn't have slapped her. I would have given her a big hug. I would have given her a big hug. And I would have said, I love you so much. You're doing so good. But you need to raise up the floor. You got to raise the floor in your life. So these rough patches happen. Yes, okay, there's challenges that are going to happen. But when we start getting into, again, rough patches as a lifestyle, we got to start raising up the floor. Raising up the floor for what's possible in life. And we also have to raise up the floor of our emotional and energetic state, because a lot of the times when we get into that rough patch cycle, it's because we let life beat us down. So I wanted to give you a quick couple scriptures that really helped me. And the very first one is from the Bhagavad Gita. This is a book all about the war, the proverbial war of life. And this is such a powerful scripture taking place on a battlefield between Arjuna and his family. And Krishna, being another word for God, is his advisor and his like caddy and his kind of helper. And Arjuna looks across the battlefield, and there's his family all lined up, ready to fight him. And he doesn't want to fight his family. So he looks at Krishna and he says, I'd rather die. He says his exact words are, better for me if the sons, weapons in hand, were to attack me in battle and kill me unarmed and unresisting. So we're in a rough patch and it's just like, just so sick of life. When you're in a rough patch and you feel like life, you've given up on joy, you've given up on believing in life, you've given up on believing in the good in life, that is another way of saying, fine, take my heart out of my chest. You know, I'm going to change what I believe in is possible for me because some rough things have happened. I'm going to change what I believe is possible in my life, what's possible for me. But to Arjuna, Krishna says, it does not become you to yield to this weakness. Arise with a brave heart and destroy the enemy. He also goes on to say that the self cannot be touched by water or fire. His exact words are, the self cannot be pierced by weapons or burned by fire. Water cannot wet it, nor can the wind dry it. So I'm telling you, whatever your rough patch is, you cannot be burned or touched or affected. So you're not even in a rough patch. Your life is not in a rough patch. You are untouchable by the enemy. In this case, the darkness, the poor way of thinking, the poor way of being. The beliefs that we have can make us a magnet for these rough patches. So for a long time, I had two beliefs that were bringing rough patches into my life. So here they are. These are the beliefs that bring rough patches into most people's lives. The two beliefs are, one, this is my path. I am destined to suffer. This is a toxic spiritual teaching that some circles kind of ascribe to. Yes, your soul definitely has some path that it's meant to traverse. I think most of us understand that at this point. There's certain aspects of your life that you're fated to be going through. Absolutely. But you are not fated to be miserable. And you're definitely not fated for a bunch of rough patches. And you're not fated for a bunch of BS plaguing you all the time. Toxic relationships, toxic life situations, just all the rough patch stuff. You're not destined for that. The will of God is that you are happy, you are filled with joy, you are peaceful, you are prosperous beyond comprehension. And I'm not just talking about money, I'm talking about your inner state, your external environment. That's what you're destined for. That's the will. We can know that's the will because when we meditate, that's what we feel. We feel all those good things. And when we meditate, we're getting rid of all the nonsense. So that's belief number one, is I'm destined for this. This is just meant to happen. I've got no control over this. Life is just a random chaotic mess. No, no, no. Life isn't happening to you. Life is not just happening to you at random. You have a lot more control and agency than you think. The second belief that brings on all these rough patches is those people are special. Those people are special cases. Those happy people, the glossy people, all the people that I see that are happy are special cases. I'm different. I am not one of those people. Henceforth, I don't get to have a normal, balanced, healthy, peaceful life. This is a really common belief that a lot of us have. It plagues a lot of people. I'm different. I'm different. Doesn't belong to me. This happiness, this success, this peace, this joy, this love, whatever. And that's a toxic belief. And if you believe that's true for you, it's going to be true for you. So clean it up here. Clean up your beliefs. You are not different. You deserve happiness. You deserve peace. You deserve joy. There's nothing different about you versus somebody you might see that's one of them. Everybody's a human being. There's no such thing as a them and a you. You're not different in a bad way. There's just no such thing. It's just such a toxic way of thinking. So the very last thing I wanted to say is we have to start taking actions every day. We might have to do things that are, a little uncomfortable. And so start meditating, start showing up for yourself, start taking those actions. And that's going to really get you elevated and keep you elevated and get the floor lifted up and keep those rough patches away from you. It's like garlic on the door to the rough patch energy vampire situation. Okay guys, that's gonna do it for today's video. I have a community called the School of Transformation. That is a community designed to help you live an exceptional life. If you wanna start living a life that you love, talking mindset, spiritual practices, weekly group coaching, a course catalog that'll get you completely transformed and so much more, you can join me at brendaturner.com/transform. I'm looking forward to seeing you in there, and I'll also look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye guys.